So we're here today because it's Friday, and Dan, I really feel like you should kick this call off. I think that you've got something unique to add, some perspective.
Sure. So we have the lady that brought me into real estate and really has been super influential in my success as a person and in real estate. There's so much gratitude. I couldn't fit it into this call. Jen Hen from the Stanford office. We actually met on Craigslist. That was a thing back
Hang on, what's going
then.
I know
on?
that sounds creepy, but it's not what you
Creepy,
think.
Jen, yeah.
Yeah.
I
She
was very married at the time anyway. At the
Yeah,
time.
it wasn't on missed connections or the personals. It wasn't but yeah, she was looking for a real estate agent, recruiting for Keller Williams. So I am in her downline, and this is probably a decade ago that we've known each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Some great conversation. She helped me get off. This was when she was still in production full time. I was still trying to figure out what the heck I was doing and kind of put the guardrails on what I was like, hey, let's focus. And then later in the career, just after we got to know each other, really helped me through some tough times, which I'm super appreciative of, and really happy she's on the call here. She's a great resource for everyone around her.
Love it. I
Thank
love
you.
it. Jen, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is a piece of cake. I mean, this is a call that I started to do. It's got to be 5 or 6 years ago now. And it came as a byproduct of, working on growing the team, investing a lot of time, effort, and energy in my own personal leadership, my own journey in, constantly expanding my knowledge base and trying to help the people that I was working with, and realizing that while I was incredibly fortunate to get into these incredibly powerful rooms where I was getting tons of information poured into me, I'd come back to the team and I would take 3 days of immersive education and try to truncate it down into 15 or 20 minutes of sound bites and dump it on the team, and realize that I was doing a terrible job passing along these leadership and personal development lessons. And so the concept at the time was sort of pre-podcast, even before people were jumping in. I was like, what if I just asked the leaders to come to us? And we have very consistently been asking people who are leaders for our agents, leaders in various different forms, from personal trainers and fitness leaders to wealth building to real estate, to come and just sort of share their personal journey with our team. There's a lot of really unique and interesting things that come from that. So this is a pretty casual sort of Q&A if you're up for it, and
Yeah, totally.
excited to have you here. I find the best place to start is at the beginning, and I've done a little bit of digging into your history, and it sounds like this wasn't your first career. Like, you
No.
came to this career from somewhere else. So let's just kind of go back to young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to take on the world, ready to take it over. The world is your oyster. You're just getting started. What are you doing? What's going on in Jen Henry's mind?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for inviting me, Dan, and for having me, Matt. It's really an honor to speak in front of all you guys. And I recently was at a women's event, and we were asked as an icebreaker, tell us, two truths and one lie about yourself. And one of the things that I chose to say was that I had at one point in time spent an entire day, just me and Cher together.
Whoa.
And everyone thought that was the lie, but it was not. So my career first began in the music industry. And I worked at a very powerful college radio station in college in Atlanta. That station was called Album 88. We had 100,000 watts, and we were breaking records. When I say records, I mean literally like breaking bands. We were the reason that REM got on the scene, the Indigo Girls, the B-52s. RuPaul was actually a local artist at the time. I met him and hung out with him before he was like RuPaul that everyone knows. Anyway, so I was the music director there, and from there I went into the music industry. Moved to New York City, worked for EMI Records, then for Warner Brothers for many, many years. And I was the VP of radio promotion. So my job was to get our artists played on radio stations around the country. It was a really sexy, phenomenal, high-paying job. It was a lot of fun. I got to hang out with rock stars for a living. I'm a huge music lover. I'm a singer. I actually just did an open mic last Thursday. And so it was just like my dream job. Unfortunately, the men that ran that business, no offense, guys, but that's the reality of what it was at the time. They managed to blow up the business because they did not think that the internet was a thing.
Mm.
And so they wanted to fight streaming music, and they did not win that battle, as you know. And so my job didn't exist anymore. So I really kind of had to reinvent myself. My mom was a real estate agent, and she said, "You should just get your license. You'll be so good at this. You'll be really great at sales. You're already good at sales. You'll love it. It's so great." And all I could think of was, "Oh God, I don't think I want to do that."
How
And
often will
my
I
mom
see
was
a
never
rock star?
home when I was a kid.
Yeah. How often will
Be-
I see a rock star, right? Like, I don't know, mom. This sounds very different. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, also, at that time I was, about to become a mom, and I really just wanted to, be able to be around. And my mom was, my mom sold real estate way before there were cell phones or fax machines or computers or anything, right? And so she did a lot of events and a lot of socializing, which meant she wasn't home that much. But she said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll teach you how to do this. You'll be so good." My mom is a high D. She didn't teach me anything. And so I got my license, but like everyone else, I thought, well, how hard can this be? I mean, first of all, I had already studied interior design for 2 years because I thought I was going to do that. And I loved houses. Boy, how many times have I heard that as a coach?
Hmm.
So many times, it's not funny. And so I thought it was going to be easy. And I spent the first 2 years failing miserably. By the end of the 2 years, I was almost the statistic of 80% of agents get out of the business in 2 years. I hated it. I was interviewing for jobs and I couldn't find anything that really matched my skill set because the music business didn't really exist in that format anymore. And I was really discouraged. I hired a coach as a last ditch effort. I literally had made like probably $6,000 in 2 years. It was really bad. So I went from this amazing career making a lot of money to making no money.
I mean, a lot of us, I think, can relate to that.
Yeah,
That first couple of years is so hard.
really hard.
I'm,
Yeah.
I don't want to move on yet. I want to camp out in the misery for a minute.
Okay.
I feel like the lessons are sometimes inside of that. So
Sure.
you're you're in the beginning of your career. You've made $6,000 in 2 years.
Hmm.
You've got this incredibly important person in your life, aka your mom, who's like sort of coaching and telling you and pushing you to try this. What were you doing every day? Like what was happening? If 2 years went by, what was happening inside of your life every day? Like in retrospect, looking back, you got a coach like that. That sounds like we're headed toward a pivotal moment. But before we get there, what happened in those 24 months when you got into the business?
Well, not a whole lot because and this is actually, this little nugget that you're discussing right now is really what I built my whole coaching program around. Because I didn't know what I was doing. And as much as I'd love to say, yeah, my mom was coaching me, she was not.
Right.
She was just saying, just go do open houses, you'll be fine. She couldn't really be bothered with me. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense about my mom. That's just her personality.
Well, it's
And
also it's a lot of us who have success in the business are not also designed to be leaders or coaches or trainers,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
So we're sort of like, why can't you just figure it out? I did. Like,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
exactly what she said.
yeah, like what do you mean? Like, why can't you just figure it out? Like, well, I don't know. There just seems like there's more complexity to it. So, all right. So for 2 years, you're sort of like trying to figure it out, but without direction.
Yeah, and most agents don't know what to do when you get your license. No one equips you with what is your day supposed to look like. And most of us are coming out of a corporate environment where you have specific tasks you're supposed to do every day. So
Or
I went to
or you get fired. Like
exactly,
the consequence is very
exactly.
real and notable and immediate in
Yeah.
that other life, right? Versus in this world, it's like, well, if I don't do anything and instead choose to do my laundry, watch TV, doom scroll, and pet my cat, actually nothing happens.
Exactly. So, this was many years ago. I've been in the business 21 years. So, 21 years ago, you didn't work from home. You didn't sit on your couch. You went to the office. So, I was at the office every day and I was on the computer looking at properties and I would go to every broker open house because I didn't have anything else to do. And the firm that I worked for was a luxury boutique firm. And it was mostly older women. And they were very threatened by me because I had a Palm Pilot and a laptop, and they thought that was bizarre. They're like, why would you bring that to work? What do you need that for? They were very strange. And so I was really a fish out of water. And I was just trying to do anything. None of them, they were all very protective and very secretive. No one wanted to help me. No one gave me any opportunities. The open houses that I got, I would get from my mom, but they were, condos. It was so even I developed the perception of I'm not skilled enough to be getting to go get listings. That wouldn't even occur to me for like 2 years. Like I would just work with buyers and I would go do open houses. And so ultimately I got my first customer was a renter who's still in my life to this day.
Mm.
She's a lovely woman. And then I got my first buyer, but this I remember vividly. The first buyer that I met at an open house, and I'm very, skilled at making connections with people. And I did understand early on that clearly this was a relationship business. And I met this couple at this open house. I knew I connected with them immediately. So, like, I probably 4 or 5 days later, it definitely wasn't the next day. I tried to call them and I didn't get it. I got their voicemail. So I left them a message. Now I let a whole nother week go by and I know I need to do something to convert this lead. And I called them again, got their voicemail. I got very discouraged and I thought, okay, they just don't want to work with me. But I had no business, and my husband was yelling at me, like, Jen, are you going to make any money at this business? I was like, okay, that's annoying. I'm trying. And so I remember I had the piece of paper on my desk, and I was pacing back and forth, looking at the number, like, okay, I have to call them. I just have to call them. I have to do it. I just have to do it. And of course, I dialed them one more time, and she answers the phone, and she says, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you called. I feel terrible that I haven't returned your phone call. We've been on vacation for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was my first sale. And I then later listed their house and then sold them $1.2 million house. And I've gotten at least 5 referrals from them.
I
So,
love it. I love it. I mean, isn't that something it's something we talk about a lot that we make up our own story
oh yeah,
all the time. We just decide that we know what's actually happening versus actually finding out. And then if you could just race toward the actual answer, it's liberating either way. Whether she had answered and said, "Oh my God, we've been on vacation," or she had answered and said, "Thank you so much for calling, but we're already working with somebody." Either one was a gift. The
exactly.
gift versus you living inside of the torture of imagining the worst case scenario, which is, oh my God, they hate me, like the worst. So at that moment, and again, I like to just sort of live inside of these pivotal moments here because therein lies the beginning of a career, the process of constant evaluation. There's something about your mindset that makes you unique, whether you know it or not, but you somehow figured out in that time period, in that 2 years, that there was something missing. There's a puzzle piece that's missing. Like, if they can do it, I can do it. Why am I not figuring it out? And you got to this last ditch effort that you described earlier of calling a coach to figure that out. What do you
Mhm.
think that's all about? What do you think it is in you that was willing to suffer for 2 years? And I assume it wasn't all suffering, but like you knew that the results were not the same as your music industry, right? Where
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you were on a meteoric rise, you were hitting grand slams, and it was like, wow, this is what winning feels like. And then suddenly we're served up, oh, I don't just naturally win at everything I do. Like, what's in you, Jen, that makes you different? How did you know there was something missing that you had to figure out?
Well, first of all, my parents were the type of people that said to me, and I watched them reinvent themselves several times. I mean, there was a period of time when my parents bought a restaurant, ended up losing all their money, and then my mom went back to real estate. But they really instilled in me this idea that I can do anything that I want to do and be anything that I want to be. So I think at a base level, that's always there. I'm someone who really, if I see something that I'm interested in, I want to learn more. So I'm very learning based person anyway. I'm always hungry to learn new things, whether it's, some really amazing recipe or some really cool documentary about some subject that I didn't know anything about. So I really love that. And I could see that there was this giant hole. And I said to myself, why is it that nobody teaches you how to do this job? And I thought it was really odd that I went through this class and literally about three-quarters of the way through, I thought to myself, are they going to teach me how to sell houses? Because I know Judy, that's my mom, is not going to help me. So when is that coming? Hopefully it's any minute now. Nope, never came. So at that point, I said, okay, I just really need to figure out what are the steps that you need to do with this. So I came at it backwards, but everyone, that gets their license comes at it backwards because you don't realize that piece.
Mhm.
And you just keep thinking, well, I'm just going to go show houses. And then
I
you
have I
realize,
have my I have my license now, so all of this is supposed to just start working, right? And
you
like,
realize,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so I'm supposed to show houses, but I don't have anybody to show them to. So how does this thing work? So I just, I knew that I needed to coach. So
What I love, but what I think is amazing is your own acknowledgement and recognition of it. I mean, how many agents do we run into who have their license and fumble for years and never acknowledge their own gap? They literally stumble through failure, which is they're being totally confronted with, and they
yeah,
never are willing to say, no, I don't actually know how to do this. Like I just literally don't know how to do it. They're still going to the brokers open houses, and I like playing office is my favorite term. Like
yeah.
they go to the office and they're playing office, but there's no outcome, there's no product. They're dressing the part. They got the business cards. They spend their time designing the website, but they never tell anyone. They don't figure out how to get people to meet with them. They don't figure out what to say when the people agree to meet with them, and they don't figure out how to deliver those people an outcome that they want. So,
And because of COVID, now they don't even come to the office.
yeah, now you don't even know
So
where they are, right?
yeah,
They're
so
just
now it's a
literally,
whole nother element of, isolation and confusion and lack of direction.
yeah,
And you want to know something? I built my whole entire coaching business around this very concept.
you
And
know.
now I have this mission. For the longest time, my goal was to be the first productivity coach to make $1 million. That's still hanging on my wall. It's been there since pretty much day one. It's a giant banner that hangs on my wall.
Love it.
And but now my goal really is to reduce that 80% of agents get out of the business in 2 years to 50%. Like
Mm.
I want to be the reason that happens.
That's a monumental goal. I love it. I love it. So obviously coaching had a huge impact on you because
Oh
you are
yeah.
a Poly coach and one of the best in the country. And so you hired your first coach. Tell us about that. So what you hired this coach, you made 6 grand. You probably had to commit at least that much to the coach just to figure out if this was worth continuing, right? So
Yeah.
you make an investment in yourself and you go and you hire this coach. Who did you hire? What did you hope to get and what did you get? What was your experience like?
It was a pretty good experience. His name was Andrew. I can't remember his last name because it was so many years ago now, but he was a pretty good coach. But now that I've been a coach, I can see, yeah, he didn't hold me accountable enough. But what was really great about this working together, however, is that he partnered me with a Keller Williams agent in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
Lisa, she is still at the company. Sadly, I am not in her downline.
Oh,
Please, everyone, hear me when I say this because she did not say to me, Jen, if Keller Williams ever comes to, Connecticut, make sure that you tell everybody that you learned about the company through me. She didn't tell me that. Too bad for her because
if you didn't
that would
know,
be really good. But at any rate, so I didn't know that there was a book. I didn't know there was a model. I didn't know anything. She really helped me a lot. And then I got excited. And KW wasn't here. But fortunately for me, about 4 months later, they opened the Stanford office and I went to them. I walked in the door and I said, "Hi, I'd like to join." And they looked around like there was a hidden camera somewhere because they weren't even ready to take
They
agents.
were like, "Is this a test? Is Keller Williams testing us that we know we
Totally.
can deliver the value?" Yeah, was this like 2007, 6, 7, somewhere around that era?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so I was the first agent they hired.
Yeah,
So
it's
I've
amazing.
been there 19 years. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I joined Keller Williams around the same time, 2007, up here
Mhm.
in Hartford County. So
Yeah.
I
I
know the
want to say maybe it
experience.
was 2006, 2006, 7. I don't know. It's all a blur now.
Whatever,
Uh,
right around that time. But yeah, right around the same time when I saw a sign because I had lived in Los Angeles and I had met Gary Keller handing out books, this very book. I
oh,
had
wow.
handing them out at the National Association of Realtors conference in Vegas. And this is like the old original copy, and I had met him and he said to me, because I was selling advertising, he said, "You should consider getting your real estate license." And I was like, well, maybe if this guy were around, I would, but it stuck with me. And then when the first time I saw a Keller Williams sign here in the area, I called and I was like, it's almost the same story. I was like, "Hey, I know about your company. I know about that book. I think I should come in." And they were same thing. They were like, "Wait, what? Nobody calls us to join the company." Like,
Yeah, that's how they
I'm
felt.
calling. Yeah. All right.
I
So,
brought my mom along and she ended up being the first team leader.
oh, that's amazing.
Hmm.
Very cool. Because she
Yeah.
had all this experience.
And then I said to her, "Let's set it up so that I'm in your profit share tree because I'm going to be in production and you're going to be the TL." And and now my mom has since passed away, but now I receive my mom's profit share because I was her. It's the craziest thing. So like I'm making money off of the money that I make.
Amazing.
I
Yeah,
know
it's
it's
actually
a wonderful thing.
pretty wild. So
Yeah.
you partner with the market center and you've got a coach and things start to change, right?
Yeah.
So I want to get into the tactical, like the ground level kind of like, okay, what do you do that you start to feel like, oh shit, this is starting to make sense. Like somewhere along the line somebody uses a word like lead generation and somebody says, you've got to figure out how to get clients, right? Somewhere along the lines, these things start to click. Like, what was the first sort of click moment where you were like, "Oh, that's what I've been missing. This is the thing I haven't been doing."
It was family reunion in Atlanta. So it's funny because that was the first family reunion that I went to. We were a brand new office. I was blown away. And then I just could not get enough. I could not get enough classes. I couldn't get it. I just soaked up everything. And I then, interestingly enough, I don't know how this is, but I have a pretty decent awareness of technology. And my mom, being the TL, said, "I need you to teach some classes.
Well,
You're really."
You had a Palm Pilot, so I mean,
Yeah.
clearly you were cutting edge,
I
Jen.
was way ahead of the curve.
We heard about listen, don't let that slip by. We heard that you were out there with your stylist showing off.
Oh,
So
I was pretty badass. Yeah, not really. Anyway, so she said, "You need to start teaching some classes because I can't teach this stuff. So can you do that?" And that I just got this fire inside of me. And so for 8 years, I was the technology coordinator at our office.
mm,
And I taught every class. I was an e-edge ambassador. That's how long ago this
I
was, before
remember.
command. I went and learned, I did all the training to learn how to do that. I went to train the trainer. I did everything that I could to actually grow myself, but then bring that back to other people.
hmm I want to point something out because I think this is another thing that people who enter the industry, and we've got a pretty sophisticated team, so people here understand. But I always think there are certain things that have to be reiterated. You invested in all this education, right? This was
Yeah.
all part of like, how do I get better? But you made that investment. That was a decision that you made, meaning you bought the plane tickets, you got on the planes, you flew to the classes, you paid for the classes, you
Yeah.
put yourself in the situation where knowledge was the outcome, right? Where there was you weren't being paid to do it. No one was my wife to this day still asks me from time to time. I mean, she's gotten better at it. If I'm like, "Hey, I have to go to this thing," she's like, "Do you get paid for that?" I'm always in the beginning of my career, it was always the most bizarre thing. I'm like, I don't know how many more times I have to explain, like, I don't get paid for anything. Like,
Yeah.
no one pays me to do anything but sell a house. Like, everything I do is coming out of my own pocket. It's investment in myself. That is, you said you used the term learning base before, which we know is one of the core principles of the six personal perspectives. Um, I think that is one of the things that I want to hear your perspective on it, having coached what at this point thousands of people. How do you figure out when somebody's actually learning based versus not? Because I think it's the differentiator. I believe I could teach someone that's willing to learn, but when people come with their, they're closed to new information, I've got it, I know. I find that to be one of the more challenging things. How do you know? How do you figure that out?
It's the questions that they ask. Anyone can just show up to something that I'm doing, and I do teach a class every day. And the reason that I do that, I'm one of the only coaches, by the way, in the productivity coaching world at KW that does that. I feel it's incredibly important, first of all, so that I have my hands on my people all the time. But, I want everyone to constantly be learning and improving their skills so they can be world-class real estate agents. But anyone can show up to a class, and a lot of people do just show up. But when you're participating and you ask different questions, or you say to me, "Hey Jen, this was really amazing. Can I, where can I go deeper on this?" When I see, you can see enthusiasm as a coach. That's another big tell. I also sometimes I find it really a fun challenge. If I see you and you're in my group and I can see that you're just kind of sitting there, you're not participating, I will make it my personal effort to try to get you engaged. Um, so, subtly, you don't know I'm doing it, but it's important to me. If you're investing your time and your money to coach with me, then my job is to make sure I'm reaching you. However I'm doing that, whether it's through one-on-ones or a class that I'm teaching or whatever that is, I take that really seriously. And but I know pretty early on, first of all, whether or not someone's going to be successful at this. And secondly, whether or not they're going to really jump in and give it their all, or whether it's going to take me a half a minute to help them either self-realize that I have to work a little bit harder at this, or I don't want to do this anymore.
This is one of those questions that's like, I know it's a stupid question when I ask it, but I want to ask it because I want to hear your view on it. What's the cheat code if in knowing who's gonna succeed and who's not? Because in 20 years of real estate and team building for me, I can tell you that knowing the difference between somebody who is actually going to knock it out of the park and someone who is going to fall flat is really challenging. Because fundamentally, what we think is the pedigree of someone who will have a high level of success is often not at all what we
Yeah.
think. Right. So you could give me a lineup every day. Hey, these 10 agents, and this is with 20 years of experience, having trained and coached hundreds and hundreds of people. Give me a lineup. These 10 agents got their license today. Pick the ones that are going to win. And I think that I'd be wrong at least 80% of the time. So what have you found are the common themes, the things that are highly predictable of a successful career?
The first thing is, what is their mindset? Are they a person who you can tell is going to succeed no matter what? They have committed to this particular goal of being a real estate agent or whatever that is. What was their previous career? What did that look like? What was that journey for them? That tells me a lot. I never base it on their disc profile or their personality, because that will throw you every single time. And it's a lot about energy, to be honest with you. If you have already had a decent track record, either in your professional life or in your personal life, and you have a lot of energy and you have the right mindset to self-correct and to be open to, coaching and becoming a better human, then I know you're going to be successful. I knew
Mhm.
Dan was going to be successful the minute I met him. He didn't know that yet, but I did.
Well,
Yeah.
it took me like 3 years, 4 years to figure that out.
And you know what's so funny? When you actually see that in somebody, And you know, you have this responsibility to help bring that out in them and help them see it. You can't just say to them, hey, you're going to be really successful. You know, sometimes you do
Gotta
need to
show
say
'em.
things like that, but for the most part, you have to help people self-actualize.
Yeah. It's
But
one of the most frustrating things as a leader is seeing people the potential they have when they don't
yeah.
see it themselves and they won't take action around it. The two things you said, I'm just going to, you said mindset and
Mhm.
energy. I've never heard it articulated that way, and I love it. Let's dig into mindset for a second because we use that word the same way we use the word culture. Like it means something different to every person. When you say mindset of a successful agent or somebody that you can predict will be successful, in your words, what does that look like? How do you see
That,
it?
that is your outlook on your life and your life potential.
Okay.
And I will tell you that this is the most important thing to me.
Okay.
And when I realized that I needed a mindset adjustment, my own self, was the very first Bold that was ever produced. I got to go to that. And I had a transformative experience in that room and
Pat,
cried in
Man-
front of 150 people.
Pat Mancuso?
Yes, Pat Mancuso.
Yes,
Were
I
you there
remember.
too in Rye?
I remember we
Oh
were,
my
well,
goodness. We were
he
at the
was,
same
no,
one.
he did it at the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield
Oh, okay. So
during the
I
same
was in
tour.
Rye.
Yeah.
Um, I could not believe how much that changed me as a person. So much so that I realized, wow, I complain about stuff.
Mhm.
Just like little things that I was, became really aware of. I made this, I still have something similar to this in my office right now. I made this sign. It was a circle, like I used PowerPoint to make this circle. And inside the circle, I wrote,
Once again, Jen, you're showing off your tech skills
yeah,
here.
I know.
Wow. You're just showing off all day, Palm Pilots and PowerPoint, but
I'll tell you something, when I was using PowerPoint, no one even knew what that was. That'll tell you how long I've been doing this. But at any rate, I made this circle, and inside the circle I put CFZ, and I hung it in the entryway from the garage, so the first place you come from the house, and that stands for a complaint-free zone. And it's
mm,
in my office today. Because I needed to catch myself and say, okay, if leave any complaining in the garage, we're not going to come into the house and like it just was like I realized the negativity that existed, even though I'm a super, super positive person.
100%.
Um, there was all this little stuff creeping in. And so that started that journey. Since then, I have done a tremendous amount of personal growth work. I've done every one of Tony Robbins', deep trainings. I've worked with Joe Dispenza. I'm really into this, like deep.
Yeah.
And it is something that I bring to my coaching group every week. I do a Mindset Monday every day. It's never about real estate. It's about how do you live as a human being? How do you actually, how do you, view the world and view your life? And what lens are you looking at it through?
Mhm.
And all of those things really, I think, have shaped me tremendously as a person, as a coach, as a
Mhm.
real estate, as a mom.
Mhm. My experience around Bold was very, very similar. I went in reluctantly, arms folded, pretty closed off to the idea that this was going to impact anything because, like you, I had had a professional sales career prior to getting into real estate.
Mhm.
And I really, really was convinced that I didn't need any of the rah rah foo foo. Like, I was very convinced that my skill, which at this point I can call my entrepreneurial skill, was enough for me to have a wildly successful career, especially in this ridiculous business like real estate where everybody's pretty subpar. So I had a high opinion of myself, low opinion of a lot of other people. And when I got into Bold, it did enough. I always use the framework of it didn't shatter the egg, but it cracked it. There was this
Mhm.
version of me that existed in my head that Bold was just enough to show me that this thing was really not so rock solid. This version wasn't quite the one. And I found myself often in rooms of people sharing their successes and doubting. And this was where I started to realize like I'm not who I think I am and I need to do work.
Mhm.
I would be in rooms and hear somebody say, my goal is to make $1 million. My last year I sold 60 homes. I'd hear people talking about their successes and I would question the validity of it because to
Mhm.
me it was so far away from what I thought was practical or real. And that was when I said, like, why do you have such a problem with other people winning at that level? And it was like, well, because what does that say about me? Like, if they can win at that level and I'm not prepared to do what they do, what does that say about me? It was and that was the crack that then made me decide I don't know anything and I need to just throw away all of the thoughts of process or of who I am. They all just need to be trashed. And to this day, I wake up every day and say, you don't know anything. You know
Yeah.
nothing. You know nothing of all the things that can be known. You don't know nearly anything. And your only job is to go learn how to be better. And that changed my world, changed everything for me. So the second thing you said, Jen, is you said mindset, and I love your definition, your outlook on your life and your life potential. I love
Mhm.
that as a way to define mindset. The other thing you said is energy. Now, I'm a big fan of the word. The word energy can mean a lot of things. It can mean frequency, right? Like, hey, you go in a room and you get a vibe from somebody. It can
Mhm.
also mean just the reservoir of energy that you wake up with every day. Hey, is this refer to people as the energizer rabbit, right? They just have so much energy. Uh, Break that down for me. What does that look like for a successful agent? What does energy mean to you? Is it a frequency of energy? Is it just the fact that they can do more? What does that look like to you?
It's not really a do more, because I see some very quiet people that you wouldn't think are very energetic do some really amazing things. It's actually really a, how do I actually describe it? Like I know it when I see it. Uh,
My wife uses the word frequency. Like she uses it like, hey,
frequency.
you're
Well,
on.
that was when you said that, I was like, that's actually pretty good. It, although, you could, I don't know that it's 100% that, but that's probably certainly a good piece of it. I think it's really just, I think it has a lot to do with your enthusiasm and just the manner in which you approach things. So if you approach things and you have a certain level of energy, meaning, okay, I'm ready to do this and this is what it's going to take. I'm all in, let's go. To me, that is energy. It's not this pretend like, hey, I'm here, I got a lot of energy. Yeah, no, that's not what it is. Um, you know what it is? I just thought of it. It's commitment.
Mm,
It's commitment to what it is, whatever it is you're doing. I don't care if it's working out, it's, s- spending time to improve your relationships or your career, whatever that is. It's the intensity, the frequency, I think your wife is right about, and the enthusiasm and the commitment that you have as you're approaching each one of those things in your life. And if I see those things, then I know that person has the energy to, to make this happen.
I
I don't
love
think
it.
it's actually about, the physicality of it as much as, uh, you know, and maybe it's all coming from your heart too. I don't know.
I
No
think,
one's asked me
well,
this question
I
before.
think though that I think like I love how you summarized and articulated mindset and energy. I think those are probably the two greatest predictors. I think that when we're talking to people about how to forecast their career and how to create a career that's worth having, you've got to have some focus on both of those things. Like
Yeah.
what kind of and to your point, energy is not necessarily the reservoir of energy that you have. Oh, you work out every day and you've got lots of energy. It's not necessarily that. It's your willingness to maybe overcome obstacles, or you use the word commitment, or this sort of idea that like I'm here to win, and I know that I deserve that, and so I'm willing to commit the energy to the things that I need. Like if you go to see an NFL football practice, you see a certain amount of energy, right?
Hmm.
They're at practice, and yet there's a certain amount of how they perform even at practice. And we use that experience on the team a lot when we talk about script practicing or role playing a consultation. In that, like, how do you actually show up to that is such a clear indication as to whether you're really committed to winning or you're just sort of pretending. And
I mean, that's a great analogy, and that is energy because I find it fascinating when I use these, analogies from time to time. Steph Curry, who will practice for 90 minutes, the same shot every single, before a game. And yet we don't practice anything when we go to show up to a listing appointment.
Right.
You're about to be on the court and you haven't prepared? What? Like
Yeah.
it's the craziest thing. But
And
yeah,
when you
that's
really,
good
and the
thought.
part that I love to like cement around that is when you actually realize how much money is at stake, it's insane that you don't.
Oh, that's a really great way to look at
Like,
it. I
oh,
think I'll adopt that. Thank
you
you.
have to show up at a listing appointment and spend the next hour and a half talking to these people, and there's $25,000 on the line if you get it right, and you're not going to prepare.
That's
Wow.
really good.
Well, there you
I will be using that in my 9:30
no
session
problem.
today.
Take
Thank
as
you.
much. I'm going to steal some of yours too. So all right. So we're getting into the evolution of, a master coach here, right? So you get into coaching, you're learning, you start this career. Somewhere along the line, you decide as a top producing agent, you're in tech training, and I assume at that point you're also in production still.
Oh yeah.
Like that's yeah. You're tech training, but at some point you decide that your future is in coaching.
Yeah.
And I think this is another one of those like pivotal, really interesting decisions that people make. Because the probability is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the probability is that had you stayed selling homes, at least early in those early days, you'd have made more money. That like there was some shift in order to get into coaching, I'm going to have to start something else, which is going to require me to economically take a little bit of a step back. But this is my life path. This is a journey, and I'm sure that you far surpassed that now. But I'm always interested when I see people willing to gamble it all on a passion or a desire or a path that they believe is in alignment with who they truly are. So talk to me about that decision. How did you know? Like when it showed up, because I don't think I'm going to guess that it wasn't money, that you didn't make the decision because, oh, if I do this, I'll make more money. There was something in you, like a fire burning that said, this is the right way for me to go.
Yeah, for sure. I first of all, when I started, helping my mom teach classes, I learned that I had this other skill and this other talent that I didn't know that I had. And I was really good at, breaking things down and explaining things to people and teaching in a way that really resonated with them. And I really loved it. And then I learned, quite a bit later, but I learned that there was a role within the company. And our office didn't have that. And so I started researching, what does this look like? And the funny thing is, I never asked anybody how much money they made or any question like that because I already knew I would be good at it and I was going to make money. It didn't cross my mind. Literally, I'm not joking. And I said to myself, I want to do that. So I got to figure out how I can convince my OP to let me do this. And I will never forget that day. I went to him and I said, I have this idea and I've written this whole proposal and here's what I want to do. And he says, okay, well, let me take a look at your proposal. And so I show it to him and he's like, this is really great, Jen. I think we could do this. And of course, it's not going to cost him one dime, right?
Right,
Because
sure.
productivity coaches only get paid if you get people into production.
Right.
And my goal was, you know what? I'm going to replace my real estate income with this. That was my goal. And then I knew I was going to have to work two jobs, which I did willingly. I was like, okay, gonna have to work two jobs really hard. When I first met Dan, I was working two jobs.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when I interviewed him, he said, well, I don't know if I'm going to know how to do this. And I was like, well, I have something that's about to come. I can't tell you what it is right now because Rick hadn't said yes yet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was banking on the fact that he was going to say yes.
I
So
was her
he says
first sign
yes.
up, I think, too, right?
You were.
I think I signed on the spot when you announced it. I'm like, all right, well, let's
I'm
fucking do
in.
this.
I love it.
So he says yes, but then he says to me, you know what though, Jen, I'm going to need to open this up and offer this opportunity to other people in the office. And I said, what? What do you mean? I just wrote this whole thing. What do you mean you're doing that? And he's like, yeah, politically, I think it would be better if we did that. And I was like, oh, hell no. I said,
Mhm.
okay, fine, go ahead. Now he's giving me a challenge. Now I'm like, now I have the real fire in me.
Mhm.
And I still got the role. And so now it's this February will be 9 years. And then pretty shortly after I formed the program, we became the #1 program in all of KW.
Yeah.
based on the sales of the agents. Now, I went to Austin to shadow one of the better productivity coaches there. I went to coaching skills camp and I learned everything that I could learn. And the first thing that I noticed was nobody's doing this right.
Hmm.
And I was confident enough in my own personal journey to know what was missing. And I said, I'm going to do this a totally different way. There's no guidelines. It's not like the TL role where you come in and they're like, this is what you're supposed to do, and here's your tools, and here's the
Well,
the play. No,
by its
none of that.
by its very compensation model, right? Which is
Mhm.
independent contractor, the model, you're not an employee. So
Right.
you're free to craft that in your own design.
The
Um,
funny thing is, most of the people who do this role, they do it as a side gig.
mhm.
And there's extremely high turnover in this role, and nobody makes any money.
Yeah.
And I said, that's not going to be my choice. I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to be the first person to make $1 million doing this. So get out of my way.
Yeah.
And I just created a system. I knew that I was going to need some systems because I'm still in production. So I have to figure out a way. How am I going to scale this? How am I going to bring agents on when I'm just one person? And I can't afford to hire anybody. And the market center is not helping me at all. And yet I'm still being asked to be a leader and do some other things and serve there. So it was the beginning was it was a lot of hard work.
You know,
Um,
I taught business planning clinic for our partners up in Massachusetts earlier this week, and I talked about how when you start something, most people are just not prepared for the failure that
Mhm.
is absolutely predictable. And when I use failure, I never use that in a negative way. And just that, like, it's not going to work the first time perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to, hey, we want to land people on Mars. We're going to shoot some rockets. They're going to blow up. Like, but each time, if we get a little closer, we're winning. And if we hopefully don't kill anybody along the way, we're winning. Like let's just set some guidelines as far as how our expectations are. When you're growing something like that, again, I think those two terms, mindset and energy, play a huge role. So you're building this program in a way that nobody's done it before. I got to imagine you probably had some naysayers too. Some people that thought the way you're doing it is different or not what we do or not how we do it. Um, did you experience any of that? Was there sort of pushback from the external?
A little bit, but I was fortunate in that because my ideas were good ideas and I had a really fantastic coach, she started putting me in front of other people. And next thing you know, I'm on panels at family reunion. And now people are coming to me saying, my program isn't doing that. Can you help me? And as a result of that, I now have, I designed a platform to help agents onboard people. That's what I use. And I've really perfected that now. And I have that as a subscription model in 9 market centers. No, actually, so I'm sorry, 12. I just brought in 3 more in Nashville. So ultimately yeah, in the beginning, people were saying that, but I just was like, whatever
Yeah,
you're
whatever.
talking
You,
about.
you believed in
I
yourself.
ignore them.
This has been amazing, by the way. So, but we're
Thank you.
almost an hour into it. So there's two things that I want to do. First is if you could give yourself a piece of advice when you first started, okay, at that very first day, what piece of advice would you give yourself? It's day one, you've just gotten your license, Judy's your mentor, you're ready to roll, right? What piece of advice would you give yourself then that you wish you knew? Something that you know now with 20 years of wisdom and experience that you could tell yourself.
As it relates to being a real estate agent?
Yeah. Or
Um,
whatever. It just, on the path of your life, what would you tell yourself?
your idea that you can do anything and be anything is absolutely correct. Everything, all of your success is going to be based around the relationships that you have with people in your life.
Mm,
Always tell people what it is that you do so that they see your enthusiasm and your energy. And keep pushing towards, keep recreating the dream.
I love
Keep growing and pushing forward.
I love it. I love it. I love it. If you're okay with it on the last couple of minutes here, I'd like to see if we have some questions or comments from the team. You okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Take a few. All right. So guys,
I do want to jump in. She does have a 9:30 call,
Yeah,
so
it's all right, but I'm ready to go. I've got everything loaded up that I
yeah,
need with
just
them.
want to be
So
respectful of your time.
yeah, thank
thank
you.
you, Jen. Thank you. So who's got a comment? Corey, I love it. Love seeing your hand. What are you thinking, Corey?
It's a comment. I don't even know if it's even formed correctly when it's coming out of my mouth. But Matt, you know me, so it'll make sense to you. I loved when you said you look at people's energy.
Mm,
So I judgy's not the word, but I connect with people, I think is the word, based on their energy. I love it. If you if you have this on your face all the time,
Yeah.
or you're looking down and you're not talking to anybody or whatever, I just can't, I even like when I go into, if I got a new listing appointment, I'm like, shit, I don't know these people, I go on, I just go in there. I'm kind of like, I'm a kind of hyper. Don't say it, Dan. So I'll go in and I'll be just me, and I have a lot of energy going on, and it usually turns their faces that way. So when you said energy is something you look for, I know
Mhm.
energy can come in a lot of forms. It just made me smile when you said that for some reason, because I felt your energy. I just like, what it is? I like nice people.
mm.
I think
Me too.
that's just
And
the thing. I
yet,
like kind, respectful, nice
Mhm.
people. And when I feel that from people, I just feel it from people.
So
Yeah.
Corey, one thing I will say that has helped me tremendously in that regard, because I'm like you, I definitely prefer nice people over confrontational people, and yet the world is full of the opposite.
Yeah.
Is that I have really mastered the disc profile, and when I'm in that environment, I change how I'm responding and communicating with those people. And when I find that I do that, they change in kind, and
Yeah.
then it's a little more balanced. So
Thank you.
my
Yeah,
thought
I
on
just
it.
had to say it.
To that point, which I love, Corey. I love your comment. We do have a policy on the team, which we don't say it as nicely as Corey. We say no assholes allowed. So that's the way that we make sure that there are nice people on the team. So
Well, good for you guys that you're working in that environment. So
yeah,
because
that's the deal. Just no assholes allowed.
that's
Present
good.
I
company
love
not
it.
accounted for, but we've had a few before.
Yeah, we had a few. They don't last because
They don't last.
assholes like
Yeah.
to hang out
Yeah,
with assholes, so it doesn't work that well.
I
But
hear you.
Bennett, what are you thinking, buddy?
Yeah, thank you, Jen. This was amazing. And
You.
yeah, Matt and I were in the first bold class with Pat Mancuso as well. So I just want to touch on your first career because I grew up outside of Atlanta. We're probably about the same age. So I'm a big Black Crowes, Widespread Panic fan. Did you come
No,
across those
that's
guys?
after I left. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So no, I was there in the height of the 80s.
So that was
And so
B-52s.
we had Frankie Goes to Hollywood, we had the
Yeah,
Eurythmics, we had all the cool alternative bands. It was an
yeah,
alternative radio station. It was awesome.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was my wheelhouse. That was when I grew up, right in Marietta. So
Yep.
What an
I went to Peachtree High School. So,
nice, Walton. Yeah.
yep.
what an awesome chapter.
Yeah,
And
that's I'd like
before
to
we
I'd like to have a beer or a cup of coffee with you sometime and talk
Okay.
about old times.
Well,
So
fortunately, she's only in Stanford, so
yeah,
this is sometimes our guests are thousands of miles away. So hopefully, we'll get to see a lot more of Jen.
Actually, Dan invited me to your event last night, and had we not have had our silly, less than stellar Halloween party, I would have come to your event
Well,
instead.
ours looked like a Halloween party because the power was out, which was wild, but we pulled it off anyway. Jen, how can we help you? You've got 30 people here who you have poured into, have made a difference this morning. You've impacted a lot of lives. How can we help you? Where can we follow you? Who can we introduce you to? Is there something you're working on that is important to you that we can support you in? Is there an Instagram page that you'd like for us to, to link up on? How can we show up today and be a big supporter of Jen Henry?
Well, I'm actually about to launch something really, really big. So so when I do that, I will share that with you guys, and then you can support me in that way. But
Love
you
it.
remember that goal that I said that I had? So I'm going down that road. And when I have that, which will be very, very soon, it's complete. I just tying up a last couple things. I will circle back to you and let you know that. Thank you for offering.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. And should we find you on Instagram, Facebook?
You can find me on both of those. My Instagram is I am Jen Hen.
I am, or I
I
am.
am Jen Hen.
All right. I love it. I love it. All right, guys, go find I am Jen Hen on Instagram. Thank her for her contributions today. Appreciate you very much, Jen. Good luck on
Thank
your
you for
call.
having me,
You've
guys.
got a
Thank
whole
you.
120 seconds to get ready for your 9:30 call. I'm sure you'll knock it out of the park. Thank you.
Well, this is probably my 10,000th one of these, so I think I'll probably make
You're
it
ready to go.
okay.
Yeah, you've been well practiced. So thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys. Have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for having me, Dan.